welcome to episode 17 of Off the Shelf, the half-termly library vlog. I'm Mr. Humphreys.
And I'm Miss Oliver.
So what have we got for you in this episode, this festive episode of Off the Shelf? So for year 7 to 9, to start us off, first choice is Fia and the Last Snow Deer by Eilish Fisher. Winter's upon us, Christmas is around the corner, so what better time to get a very wintry read? It features a nicely wintry setting, but it also features, as that says, a snow deer, which is very reminiscent of a reindeer. So very nice and Christmassy for you. So the protagonist, Fia, she's got a powerful connection with the snow deer. Think along the lines of Northern Lights, the Here's Dark Materials trilogy with Lyra and her demon and your spirit animal. And in another something that is reminiscent of another story, think of Narnia, because their land is in the grip of an evil kind of malevolent force that has doomed them to an eternal winter. And they have to go on a quest to find a mythical deer who can awaken the sun and bring light back to the land. But of course, the quest is wrought with peril. Now, it's written in verse, so it's very beautiful. Also, it's got some very beautiful illustrations, very evocative and atmospheric illustrations throughout as well.
Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's infused with Irish mythology, and like all the best tales, it reminds us that even when things seem very bleak and dark, a little spark of light is all it takes to restore hope in a world consumed by darkness. So there you go. That's the first one. So now keeping in
Sounds
with
great.
It does, doesn't it? Keeping in with the sort of mythological theme and the Celtic theme, my next choice is called I hope I'm pronouncing this right, The Grimmelings. The Grimmelings by Rachel King, and this is a debut effort. So this is set in Scotland this time. Now, you might be able to see this from the cover. It's got a horse in it, so you might think it features horses prominently. Just want to say, if you're looking for a Black Beauty style tale, you might want to look elsewhere, because this is a bit darker. It's a bit edgier than that. So the main character is a girl called Ella. She's 13 years old. And in a moment of rage, there's this boy who's been tormenting her. I think it's on the school bus, if I remember correctly. And she basically, in a moment of rage, just curses him. But that kind of backfires, because he then goes missing. But he doesn't just go missing in any old way. He goes missing in a way that's very reminiscent of the way her own father went missing years before. So now, if you want to know where the horse comes in, it's not actually a horse per se. It's a kelpie. Now, a kelpie is like a sort of shape-shifting creature from Scottish mythology. So yeah, not Black Beauty at all.
No.
So as I said, very dark tale, but it's also very beautiful in terms of its language. And at the start of each chapter, it gives you, because I mentioned how the Scots dialect features throughout. It gives you a sort of definition of some of the phrases and terminology. So, for instance, on the first chapter, Grimmeling, the first and last glimmers of light in the day. And it's got that at the start of each chapter to sort of help you with the Scots dialect along the way. So yeah, that's my second choice. And lastly, now I think I'm keeping very much in the mythological and fantasy
I did
vein.
last time.
Like you did last. I took my cue from you, Miss Oliver. So my last choice is Live Like a Goddess. This is non-fiction. Live Like a Goddess by Jean Menzies. So this one focuses on myths from all around the world in the best possible way, because what it does, it draws life lessons from all of these various goddesses from around the world and shows how we can apply them to our lives today. Okay, so it sort of breaks it down into three. Each goddess is broken down into three different parts: look around you, looking inward, and look into others. And yeah, it cites the example of multiple female goddesses across a range of different traditions. Okay, so I'll give you one example. So this is Durga. Okay, and yeah, it starts by telling you who is Durga. Then it then goes on to tell a story, and then explains how you can be more like them, be more like Durga. Okay, so yeah, it's like an inspirational introduction essentially to goddesses in mythology and how they remain relevant today. Because I know how popular mythology is here at the school,
very much so.
And so yeah, it's a good way to show how you can directly map it, not just from the obvious things like Greek and Roman mythology, but from mythologies across the world.
Yeah, and closer to home too.
Absolutely,
Scotland and Ireland.
Yes, definitely, as we said with the first two. So there we go. All right, over to you, Miss Oliver.
Okay, thank you. Well, my first book is Lucy Falk's Coming of Age. It's non-fiction, Lucy Fawkes is an adolescent psychologist, and I chose this book because I have an adolescent daughter, as well as working with teens. And adolescence is notoriously often a very difficult time of life, both for the teen and the people around them. So this book aims to get beneath those stereotypes and expose the myths behind them, and reveal the important reasons why teenagers actually behave the way they do. So immediately we all want to know that secret, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. The elixir.
Yes. So Fawkes covers all the characteristic behaviours of adolescence, from peer pressure, risk-taking, to sex, love, bullying and friendship. And she shows that we often mistake and dismiss and even try to prevent what actually is apparently normal and healthy behaviour. So an interesting read from that point of view alone. She goes on to expand about why self-consciousness, anxiety and sensation seeking are crucial features of the adolescent developmental phase as well. And she shows that adolescents generally have an extraordinary capacity for resilience, empathy and mutual support, and that even the most challenging experiences are part of an essential process of self-discovery. So, apparently understanding adolescence is the key to understanding ourselves. So food for thought there, definitely.
You heard it here first. Useful manual, I think.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah. My second is fiction now, and this is Fire by John Boyne. Boyne is very well known for his global bestseller, The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, which was shown at cinema, theatre, opera, ballet, and that was for younger readers, although older readers too. But he's also written 16 adult novels. This is one of those. And this is actually part of a quartet called The Elements. And Water and Earth has already been published, and Air is coming out next year, in fact. So the themes within this novella are family conflict and redemption. And they're set against historical background. And the protagonist, Freya, is a wealthy, callous and cruel woman. And what he does is he examines how her harrowing experiences in youth then shape the person that she became. And he uses his rich storytelling and his really deep emotional way of writing that has worked so well in other books he's written. So a really good read. And inside, I'll just read a bit of the inside cover. It says the reader goes on a chilling, uncomfortable but utterly compelling psychological journey to the epicentre of the human condition, asking the age-old question, nurture or nature?
Bit of overlap with that last one as well. How it's formed her experiences.
Yes, very
like
much so. Yeah, I do like to have a bit of a theme.
Yes, I can see.
Okay, and my final fiction book is Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. Now, as it says at the top here, she's the global best-selling author of the Truly Devious series. But this is a standalone YA, and the protagonist in this is Marlowe. And she goes to work as a tour guide in an abandoned mansion on an island that was built in the 1920s. But whilst there, she uncovers a mystery that she has to solve before history repeats itself. But Morning House, the book of the house of the title, has a horrific secret that's been buried for decades. And now the person that brought Marlowe to the island has also gone missing. So she has to solve it, obviously. But the narration alternates between Marlowe sleuthing in the present day to flashbacks to the 1930s, and that's something that Maureen Johnson's well known for. So this LBQTQ+, I'm not sure I quite said that right.
LGBT.
Thank you.
There's a lot of letters there, but yeah.
Yes, yeah.
You know what we mean.
Is for anyone who likes a good mystery with a smattering of self-deprecating wit within it.
Yeah. Yes, which is a lot of us, I think.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Miss Oliver. Okay, so there's our choices for this episode. What about our guest for this episode? So as you probably can tell, we tend to get people on who are frequent visitors to the library, who like to borrow books a lot. And one teacher we see in here a lot who is a very keen reader is Mrs. Gore, head of PRS. So what sort of books does she like to read? What are her likes, dislikes and foibles? Let's find out. Over to you, Mrs. Gore.
So I read a book a couple of weeks ago which I really enjoyed, which was called The Appeal by Janice Hallett, and it's basically comprised of emails and letters and WhatsApp messages. So it's a murder mystery essentially, and it's two lawyers trying to piece together what happened, and all you get is the emails and the text chains and things. So I just thought it was really clever, and it was very compelling. It's a very easy read. But yeah, it was just one that I couldn't put down, and I just couldn't wait to get home so I could read my book again, and it kept me up kind of past my bedtime. So I think that's a good sign of a good compelling book. So yeah, if you like a murder mystery, I definitely recommend that one. I think this would have to be Danny the Champion of the World by Roald Dahl. I just have very fond memories of my mum reading me this book. I remember, I think I need to reread it actually, but I just remember feeling so captivated by it, and especially the bit where they're putting all the powder in the raisins. I just remember being so excited to listen to the next bit of the story that my mum was reading me. So yeah, it's definitely one that I would like to share with my children as well. So I really didn't enjoy The Time Traveller's Wife, and I know this is very well loved amongst a lot of people, and it's obviously been made into a film and a TV show and a play and everything, but I just really didn't like it. And I don't say that about that many books, but I just didn't enjoy it. I don't like time travel as a concept generally in films and books, so it probably wasn't very likely that I was going to enjoy it. I just think it doesn't work as a concept. It makes my head hurt when I try and piece together how things work. I just wasn't a fan of this book. So I think this is quite hard because I don't know what people haven't heard of, but I thought I'd go for maybe a non-fiction. I don't tend to read a lot of non-fiction, but I think this is probably one that you might not have heard of unless you are interested in philosophy and religion. So there's a book called Virtue Reborn by Tom Wright, and he's written quite a lot of books about Christian theology in particular, but this one he's looking at Christian morality, and he basically argues that there's a lot of problems with a kind of rule-based Christian ethic, and he proposes that we return to an Aristotelian virtue ethic, but he kind of reimagines it through a Christian lens, and I just think what he proposes is really interesting, and I find myself agreeing with a lot of what he says, and so I feel like that book was quite influential for me in my own thinking, and I think it's probably one that people might not have heard of. So it's hard to whittle down favourite books, but I think I've definitely got a top choice, which is Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. And I don't often reread books, but I will reread this book so much. I absolutely love it. Every time I read it, I just think it's so exciting. It's such a page turner. It's also quite hefty, so it would keep going for a long time if you were stranded on a desert island. It's set in Victorian times. I don't want to say too much about the synopsis because I don't want to give away anything. There's quite a lot of twists in it. It's just very exciting and really well written, but a very compelling story. So that one definitely. Secondly, I really like Life of Pi by Jan Martel. And I like a book with an unreliable narrator, and I like a book with an ambiguous ending, and that's got both of those. And I think every time you kind of, because I've seen the play and the film of that as well, and every time I kind of watch or read it, I think something slightly different about the ending. So my interpretation of it changes every time, which I really like. And then my third choice, I think I'm going to say The Year of the Runaways by Sanjay Sahota. It's about three young men from India who come to the UK, and it's just kind of about how they settle into life. They come over to try and create a better life for themselves, to make money, and It's really heartbreaking in places, very interesting. It just gives you a really interesting look at that experience that might be very real for some people. And so it's quite heavy hitting. It's not a kind of easy beach read, but it's a really, really good book.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gore. Okay, so this is a Christmas episode. So what we thought we'd do for our next section, we've got a little festive treat for you. There's a very famous poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." It's a very long poem. There's 56 lines. So what we thought we'd do is, as a little festive treat, we thought we'd get 56 different members of the Surbiton High School community to say a line each of this poem. So here we go. Here's a little festive treat for you. "'Twas the night before Christmas."
'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house
not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
The stockings were hung by the chimney with care,
in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
The children were nestled all snug in their beds,
While visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap.
Had just settled down for a long winter's nap.
When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter.
I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter.
away to the window I flew like a flash.
Tore open the shutters and threw up the sash.
The moon on the breast of a new fallen snow
gave the lustre of midday to objects below.
When what to my wondering eyes should appear
but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick.
More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came,
and he whistled and shouted and called them by name.
Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, now Vixen.
On Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen.
To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall.
Now dash away, dash away, dash away all.
As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly, when they reach with an obstacle mount to the sky.
So up to the housetop the coursers they flew,
with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too.
And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof
the prancing and pawing of each little hoof.
As I drew in my head and was turning around,
down the chimney came St. Nicholas with a bound.
He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot,
and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot.
A bundle of toys he had flung on his back,
and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack.
His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples so merry.
His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry.
His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow,
and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow.
The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth,
and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath.
He had a broad face and a little round belly,
that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly.
He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf.
And I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself.
A wink of his eye and a twist of his head.
Soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread.
He spoke not a word but went straight to his work.
And filled all their stockings and turned with a jerk.
And then laying his finger inside of his nose.
And giving a nod up the chimney he rose.
He sprang to the sleigh, to his team gave a whistle.
And away they all flew like the down of a thistle.
But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight,
"Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
That was great. Thank you, everyone. And now for our final piece, the trivia. So Dickens at Christmas Carol, apparently the Tiny Tim character was originally going to be called Little Fred.
Now, do you think people would remember? We were talking about this earlier. What do you think people would remember?
I don't think people would. I think Tiny Tim just has that ring to it.
Yeah, it's got the alliteration, isn't
it?
So, yeah. I guess we'll never know, but there you go. Well, thank you. There you go. A little bit of Christmas trivia for you. Okay, so that wraps up this episode. So thank you very much for watching. Merry Christmas and take care.
Merry Christmas.
And we'll see you in New Year.
Okay,
bye. For now. Bye.